Thank you. So shortly speaking, so I'm working here at IRCAM, and I did a PhD in a scientific team here, research team. Then I move on to coordinating residencies, and now I'm a bit stepping down inside residencies back, doing a new PhD in arts in Hamburg. So I will try to make a bridge with the previous bridging panel, and then I will give you two case studies that have in common to have been coordinated by IRCAM, so it's one point of view. And then after, I think with the panel we will have plenty of time. Organizing residencies is a big topic. So I'm sure we will have interesting discussions. So I think I don't need to explain that art and science to this audience are sharing concepts, are sharing at the level of aesthetics and on the level of philosophy. There are many examples through the history where arts and science have been actually thought as one thing and not as two separated fields. And when we look at why, it's also because a lot of artworks or scientific works are actually teamworks. So from the creative laboratory, where a lot of assistants, a lot of technicians help in doing an artworks, to scientific handicraft, where there are some also some designers slash artists that are working inside some big scientific projects. Actually, if we look at the places, the studio are sometimes not so far from laboratory, fab lab, workshop, factory. And also people are involved in those places are also sharing skills as engineer, developer, technician, and designer, maker, actors. Also because why? Because they share tools to make both science and arts. So from technologies of inspiration, because there is the media industry, media research revolution, that is a domain where, of course, artists and scientists converge. So, for instance, what artists can do with AI now, and also to really poetry, meaning that from science fiction to data visualization, the way artists perceives and draw perspectives in terms of technology and science has been sometimes the motor for scientific work. Same tools also because we are today in a digital world, so most of the tools are developed with computer programs, which doesn't require so much of an apparatus, and it's today it's common to see some projects on GitHub or whatever that are embedding both artists, scientists, and engineers all together in the same developments. So finally, also the people are sometimes not so far. So if there are some human qualities shared, I would say most scientists and artists are curious, creative, critical, and also they want to communicate. This is something important. They want to show to the world that they did something. And also what they share is is actually project management. So if you take a scientist or an artist today, he will spend 90% of his time to do project administration, to secure funding, to do tool development, education, and communication. And the last 10% remain into the core of what they are really interested in, meaning science or arts. So in the end, art and science are not so different, and we have to acknowledge that some of us are actually doing both. There are some here in the audience, I think this is a figure we should address as well. Is when art and science converge into one people. So what can an artistic residency or an art science residency do with that? If there are some similarities, why are we actually doing art science residencies? It turns that if you want to make a researcher and an artist working together, then you already have to think that they are pretty busy already doing their stuff. They are 90% of administration and 10% creative work, let's say. And if you want them to engage into, let's say, 30% of their time working together on a new project, then they won't have the time to do the administration of this project. And that means that, and actually they, I think they don't want to add on top of their 90% some more paperwork. So what could we do is actually to do the paperwork instead of them. And if we do like 90% of the project administration, the funding, the development of tool, the education and communication, then we can offer a place for artists and scientists to really engage into a creative process. So basically my talk will be to think, I mean, because we're talking about implementation now, and basically I see an artistic an art science residency as a point of view of the organization of addressing these tasks. So I'm going to give a first case study, which is the IRCAM ArtScience Residency program. This is a program that exists from 12 years now. It's about 70 artists came here at IRCAM in the lab for quite long residencies and addressing several topics related to music. So specifically, the lab is offering an office, a desktop place for the artists to come for a long-term period, like 9 months, and working together. It has been extended into several international partnerships with the ZKM, the SAT in Montreal, C-Lab in Taiwan, Georgia Tech, and the GRAM in Lyon. The objective is to enhance the artist's workshop, to give him new tools to create, and without asking actually to create. This is part of inception and preparation of new artworks that could enter into the production pipe here at IRCAM. But for the residency, we try to be not too demanding. We will talk about it later. Then for scientists, I think it's part of the necessary scientific openness. And also it leads them to engage new topics, new thematics, and to design also new tools that could help them in their research. Finally, and because we were talking about art and I think an important topic is also artistic research as itself, which is also a domain that is constantly trying to exist, I would say. Maybe art science is a niche inside these artistic research fields. The Art Science Residency program at IRCAM consists of a call where there is a selection process that is in 2 phases. So there is first a peer review from experts in the domain, And also, as here we have 7 research teams, artists are actually selecting one of the team and submit a proposal each year. So we issue a call yearly, and yes, we have about 6 residency per year selected on more than 100 applications. So then they come here at the lab. We make a 2-party copyright contract, so between IRCAM and the artist. It's pretty easy because IRCAM is both the organizer of the residency, but it's also the laboratory, so it makes things a lot easier. And then we do a very light monitoring because the artist is actually here, so there are a lot of exchanges. But what is really important is to do an inception meeting where they first meet. And I think this first meeting is actually crucial. And you can, as an organizer, you can feel how the residency will go from the first meeting. And then, so the residency team is composed of the artist, a researcher, and a computer music designer, a residency officer, and the program manager. So what is about this guy, the computer music designer? This is a very special profile at IRCAM that has been actually invented from the very beginning of IRCAM. So if we see the status of the association, the creation of IRCAM, to carry out all fundamental and applied research relating to questions concerning musical creation, notably with the constitution of teams composed of artists, scientists, and technicians. And so what is he doing? And sometimes it's been called a technician, a tutor, a musical assistant. Now it's a computer music designer. I will call it an artistic designer. He's doing in art tech coordination, so he's working on several projects, meaning he can stimulate cross-fertilization between these projects. And also is monitoring the technical developments of the research teams. He's a software developer himself and a beta tester of what is going on. Then he is an artistic producer, meaning he's doing the artwork creation together with the artist. So he, at the beginning, he will identify with the artist concepts and translate them into specific creative tools that will be required. He will be part of the making of the work, by developing these tools, and he will also perform the electronic part. So in case of the mixed music that we produce here at IRCAM, meaning he will play the electronics and be responsible of the installation. Finally, as he's really cutting edge at the knowledge of what does the artist and what does the researcher, he is kind of a tech evangelist, meaning that he will document, maintain, and also disseminate the artwork. He will work on the genericization of the creative tools. So once you've been working on an opera, then maybe you have been developing some kind of tool for that, and then he will try to extract some tools that could be used by others for doing other artworks. So it's part of mutualization process.
Can he also be a she?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Yes. That's a good point. Sorry. Of course, and they are actually. Finally, he or she will give some, make some cultural mediation and try to do some pedagogy works around. So that is about this technician, or yes. So finally, what did IRCAM to make an ArtScience residency working is to create this specific role, which is this artistic designer. And also, it created specific tools for the output of this project. So this is a website called the Forum, where we disseminate calls, we publish artistic research, we share resources, and it is given to support the communities that are, in a sense, art sciences. Finally, we do some special events. For those who stay in Paris, we have a 3 days forum workshop just after this symposium, where are exhibited artworks or prototypes or experiments or slash installations of this outcome of the residencies. Of the output. The outcomes are then, after having developing some concept and tools, the artist can enter into the pipe of artistic production. So we kind of try to separate the tools developments to the making of the artwork. Then after, of course, there are some publications. There is a long list of publications here where artists and scientists actually publish together. And there are also some byproducts that are software for creation. So now we'll turn to the START's Residencies program. So based on the experience we had, we, together with partners you see here, coordinate the START's Residency project. So it is about 45 residencies that are extended, that are in the ICT, Information Communication Technologies, research fields. So there are many subjects that have been producing artwork in various forms, and one can see those artworks last weekend during the START's Residencies days. So this is again artistic researches conducted inside the lab. So in total it's 45 artists. Actually it's more because there are a lot of couples, which is really interesting actually. Working in 40 research teams supported by 10 producers. So the general objectives are to organize artist collaboration with tech projects to foster innovation. Innovation is at the core of the project. Then we issue a yearly public event exhibiting the results of the collaborations, like last weekend. And also something that you might be interested in is that we develop a lot of actually kits to monitor residencies, some best practice, and also a website that can be used for third-party calls. Aiming at supporting the community. So the START residency selection process, so it's a shorter residency, it's more concentrated, and the call is in 2 steps. So we have a first step, we do issue a call for tech projects. So we have a lot of tech projects. At the end we have almost 100 labs that show up and say, hey, we're interested in hosting an artist. So we had the first selection committee, then we published this tech project on the website, on the call for artists. And this second call was addressed to artists to submit proposal where they can target one of these tech projects. So we have about 15 laureates per year. These last 3 years, yes. As tech projects were very different, we asked them to, from the beginning, to show up what they offer to the artist. So the facilities were really depending on the laboratory, the availability, of course, of the team as well. And this is important. We spend much effort and much time in establishing the copyright contract. So because we did a multi-party contract where everybody was were together, so artists, researchers belong sometimes to consortiums, and also starts as an organizer, and some producers. So sometimes I think 1 or 2 residency end up before the contract signing almost, meaning that the process of doing such copyright contracts is very long. In this residency team, there will be there've been an artist with an optional executive producer, a researcher, and a partner monitor, somebody that was taking care of the residency. So now I will focus on these people. So again, it's he or she. Mostly she, I have to say. In the case of Starts. So let's call him or her a residency officer or operator. So the idea is to it's a very tricky work. So you have to understand both complexities of artistic and scientific words. Also to understand that art science word is a word that you have to create, actually. One thing that is important, contrary to the artistic designer, no need for tech-specific knowledge, meaning that actually it's better for dissemination if you not like too much engage into the technical, because you can question the artists and the researchers to make them clear and to disseminate for a large public. You will be in charge of doing production management, meaning that you will deal with contract, money, travel, cost, material, budget, transportation. You also act as a communication manager. Dissemination and communication for this kind of project is very important. And you will probably end up organizing events and to think about communicating in a creative way as well. Also, you will be a facilitator between the various challenge the residency can present. Sometimes you will be boosting the collaborations or animate it a bit. And finally, you will, because you're part of an institution that wants to know the impact and evaluate and assess, and so you will try to gather feedback to improve the process. Yes, so in the case of Start Residency, we share the monitoring of these 45 residencies. So that means that we had to come up with a kind of like a monitor's kit that we can share, so as we can help the residencies the same way. Also to collect data while minimizing the procedural aspects. So this is really important because we didn't want to add more project administration to the artists and to the researchers. So we have been trying to minimize the feedback we ask and to focus really on what's of human exchange and important feedbacks. So this is part of the European project. So it's a kit of, let's say, templates that can help somebody that wants to make and follow up ArtScience residencies. With a special focus on co-creation process, design tech interactions, and art science relationships. Because quite often we see that the value is, of course, in the artwork that is produced at the end, but most important comes from the process and yes, the relationships between arts and sciences. So in this case, in the case of Start Residency, we address the specific role of the residency officer. We create some specific tools, the monitoring kits, but also this website for managing calls, also for third-party calls. Also, we publish the same way a blog for artistic research, for dissemination of artistic research, a website to support communities, and an event, Starts Residencies Days. Outcomes are, again, artistic production, scientific publication, and also some technical development. So, as a kind of a summary, I would say that in these two cases, we tried to address this, let's say, this paperwork and those kind of satellite tasks by creating a team. I mean, let's talk about an ideal residency team now. That would be, of course, the artist, the researcher, but also somebody that is making the bridge and developing some tools that has been designed by the artists, and also these people that helps and doing all the administration of the project, the communication, and the funding. Finally, it seems to be a constant that we have to create some specific channel for art science residency showing off. So in most cases or most festivals I've been looking at, it seems that the presence of the artists and of the researchers showing the artwork is really important. We were talking about human relationship, and it's about when you just have an artwork with a very complex scientific background, just at ease, it can be a bit hard for an audience to get, and also. I think it's fabulous to have the artists and the researchers explaining, because there are a lot of anecdotes and a lot of stories behind the process that are almost as interesting as the artwork at the end. So thank you very much, and I'm done.